Okay, welcome. So today we're going to talk about the masters of shop at home. I'm really excited about this subject. We spent the whole 2 days talking about the flooring industry, how technology is going to impact how we can create a better user experience. You guys saw that we unveiled our retail selling system. To me, what we're going to talk about is something else that can be improved. And I believe it's the X factor that this industry can combat e-commerce with. So this is a really, really exciting talk we're going to have. With that, I'd like to introduce the panel. Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jason Goldberg, Steve Silvers, and Joe Zago.
Right.
Go ahead.
I mean, I just opened up Mom's Spaghetti in Detroit.
This is some serious horsepower up here. I don't even know what to do. I'm a little intimidated.
Can we start with a happy birthday to Scott, a real one here? Happy birthday to Scott. Happy birthday to Scott. I don't know how to improvise with that. Anyways. Happy birthday to you.
I knew this thing would take a life of its own up here. You got three very, very unique people. One person that's a little scary when he talks, one person that's funny, and another guy that'll make you cry. So it's a very, very interesting group of guys, but a lot of success. They all have amazing, amazing stories. They're incredibly successful at what they do, and they do it completely differently, all three of them. So I think that's what's unique and it's what's unique about an event like this, bringing all of us together. We're all in this industry together, trying to accomplish the same things, doing it different ways, and that's really what's exciting about being a technology platform and be able to work with manufacturers and dealers who all do it different, but can leverage our technology to create a better user experience. So you can see some facts here. We're going to get into this as quick as we can, so we have some time for Q&A after. These are some fun facts, or some, I don't know if they're fun, but there's some facts about the guys. We're not going to go through this and ask them to read it. That'd be weird. But you can see some of the things here that are unique about these three fellows. So, shop at home, like I said, is done differently by all of these guys. I am going to let each of them talk a little bit about the makeup of their trucks or their vehicles and the people that work for them as far as in the field and selling. So I guess we'll start with Jason and just kind of talk about the trucks and the installers and the people that actually, more the salespeople, I'm sorry, the trucks and the salespeople that are working for you, how that's made up.
Sure. So our trucks are now they're Ford Transit. They were Dodge Sprinters. As you can see, we put a nice pretty wrap on the outside. And then, by the way, this was designed in 2009 when we launched our first mobile floor source. The wrap has been updated a couple times. The inside has not. So you see it's custom shelving, all steel. And we designed it in a way that it didn't matter the size of the boards, right? So we can carry who's ever. In our system, the customer does not come in our vehicle, all right? That'd be a little weird, Mrs. Jones coming in the back of a van. Shut the door and see you later. So we don't do that.
That's bad?
That is bad.
Oh.
The drivers, so when we started ours, we wanted to be different. I came from another flooring company that offered shop at home. If anyone's from the Ohio region, you may recall Call Mr. Edwards. But it was basically the salesperson driving their car with samples in the back. And then some of the people we competed with, sorry, Steve, but we didn't want to do the Empire model because they use subcontractors. So we wanted employees wearing our labeled gear so that Mrs. Jones could see a professional driving our vehicle. So it costs us a little bit more, but it's the type of experience we wanted to give Mrs. Homeowner.
Steve?
So we're a little bit different. Our sales reps are what they call direct sellers, so they're independent contractors, commission-based. And we don't provide them a vehicle. They provide their own vehicles. We certainly provide them the samples and help them understand the size of vehicle they need to fit all that stuff in. But we, our guys are, they're not classic flooring people. They are more traditional in-home sales people. And that's the difference in the model quite a bit.
And I would say for mine, very similar as Steve's. I grew up in a culture of, I started selling Kirby vacuum cleaners when I was a kid, going door to door, knocking on doors with my own vehicle, and my car was junk, so I hid it around the corner. And then I worked with Empire for several years, and then I was also at Express Flooring in Arizona for 3 years. And so I came from, drive our own vehicle. We're actually in the position of transitioning. We're looking, unfortunately, there's no dealers right now that have any cars that you can get, at least at a bargain. But we're looking to have our salespeople driving our own vehicles. But we do like the motto of keeping them as independent contractors, so they will lease the vehicle maybe for $1 a month, I'm guessing, something along that nature. So that way we have billboards all over the city. We used a company once that was wrapping Uber vehicles, and for what that costs versus a car payment, might as well just get them a car and have it be ours.
Appreciate that. All right. So we've got some questions we put together. I'm going to have each of you answer them. The first one is, how or why did each of you end up in this shop-at-home business? And Joey, we'll start with you on this one.
Oh, man, okay. Well, my first door-to-door job was when I was, 13 years old. I wasn't old enough to work yet, so we found this guy, Andy, who had guys that would never want to do the hard work. So he worked at Domino's, and so he'd pay us, he'd give us a free pizza, and he'd give us $20 for the day to stuff these flyers and go door to door and knock on the door and say, hey, Domino's Pizza delivers, and hand out the cup with the coupons in it. And so I got accustomed at a really young age, going door to door, not being afraid to knock on a door, not being afraid of having somebody slam the door in my face, and greet them with a smile. So after that, when I was a young adult, I sold Kirby vacuum door to door for several years, and it was my opposition of everyone telling me you can't make money selling vacuum cleaners that kept me in it, because I didn't want them to ever say I told you so. And that was great because I learned a tremendous amount from that business. And then after that, I got into, I knew how to make carpet last, so it only made sense to learn how to sell carpet. So the rest is history.
Cool. Steve?
Yeah, as I mentioned yesterday, it's completely by accident, right? So I'm a CPA and accountant. I was a CFO. And I just happened to, get hired by a founder of a shop-at-home flooring company, and had a couple of really good mentors there who taught me how the industry worked and how the business worked. And I kind of attribute it to lucky. At the end of the day, I was 27 years old. I was a CFO of a company that was bought by private equity, and I got pretty lucky. And my definition of lucky, though, is opportunity and hard work. You put the two things together, and I got lucky. I worked really hard. And I had a really good opportunity, and we just kind of made it happen. And 25 years later, I know more about shop at home than I ever wanted to. So,
Awesome. And Jason?
So I started my business in 2000, and we were mainly doing builder. And in 2004, we built a new facility, and we were going to put a really nice showroom in there. Well, I finished the facility with everything but the showroom because I was still growing and I didn't have a lot of money, but we wanted to add retail. So I decided the easiest way to do it would be shop at home. So we bought a Sprinter and we wrapped it and we hired one person to drive it, and that's how we got into it.
Awesome. So all three of you have been doing shop at home for a very long time. What would you say is the biggest difference today in your business in shop at home than when you began offering the service? And I'll start with Jason on this one.
So the biggest difference I see, when I started in shop at home, there were very few companies that did it. And the few companies that did it either used the model that Steve described, using independent contractors, so driving their own vehicles, or what my previous employer did, their employees driving their vehicles. But now, all you guys, the vast majority of retailers have some sort of shop at home or are trying to get to some sort of shop at home. So the biggest difference I see is everyone's trying to do it versus back in the day, we didn't have as many competitors in the space.
Steve?
There's two things that are sort of combined. One is obviously the internet has dramatically changed the way people shop, whether it's impacting your stores or us, which is a home sales organization. The consumer is much more educated before they even approach us than they were in the past. And it's forced, I think, all of our businesses to mature. We're certainly guilty of the classic in-home sales organization, high pressure sales, aluminum siding kind of thing. That doesn't work in today's environment anymore, right? The consumer's way too educated for you to just go in there and try and, pressure anybody into making any kind of a purchase nowadays. So that the internet dramatically changed how smart the customer is. The other thing is, unlike brick and mortar stores, we don't have any, our branding is all television, right? We go out and we drive consumers to our websites and to our telephone numbers and stuff like that. And, consumers, the way they watch television and everything else between their phones and the media is, it's much more difficult to reach people. And frankly, it's a lot more expensive to reach people nowadays. So that's changed the business model quite a bit. You're kind of forced to because, they're on Hulu, they're watching local television, they got Roku, they're on Facebook, they're on YouTube, and frankly, costs haven't gone down, even though the audiences are much more spread out. And it's, so it's a much larger investment and much more expensive to do shop at home.
I think I just got lucky. My timing was perfect. It couldn't have, I had no money when I started, but if I had to start all over in the same position I was 11 years ago, I don't know if I could do it, at least the way I did. At the time, the economy was tanked in 2009, so a lot of people were out of business, so the competition was low. The use of internet for pay-per-click marketing was almost non-existent. There was Home Depot, Lowe's, Express, and Empire, and that was it. So the cost per click was nothing, and now it's so flooded that, unless you have a really good, somebody to manage that pay-per-click like Floors, or formerly Ad Hoc, it'd be really expensive, that trial and error. A lot of people go out of business because they run out of money before they run out of errors, and it could be really challenging now. So I got really lucky. I think, like Steve was saying, the cost has been the big thing. Also, when I started, there was very few shop-at-home companies. So, their Empire was the big one in the Detroit marketplace, and that was it. Nobody else was doing it. So it was easy to do at the time. And
we had a huge advantage at Empire because we were the first. And when you're the first to do something, when you're a market leader, you're infinitely more successful in a much lower from an investment perspective. And on top of it, we benefited from WGN television. So if anybody knows WGN television, it was a superstation. It was that advertising went everywhere throughout the United States. Though we were only buying media for local Chicago media, but we had a huge benefit. So when we went to new markets at that point, people thought they already knew Empire, that we had been there for years. In fact, we just entered the market, but no one knew that. They just assumed they'd been watching us on WGN for years and just thought we were part of the marketplace. That just doesn't exist. That benefit doesn't exist anymore.
I think people check companies out more now than they did, as Jason was saying with technology. When I started, it was, you knock on the door and, okay, come on in, and now it's you got to make sure your reviews are up. You got to make sure that you're doing the right things 100%.
I think all those answers map into what we've been talking about. To get people's attention today in the marketplace is not what it was 2 years ago, 6 months ago. The competition and the amount of messages being thrown at these consumers to buy flooring specifically, if we're talking about that, has increased exponentially. So how do you separate yourself? These guys are offering something that not everybody offers, and they're really good at it. They all have 3 different styles, as you can see, of marketing. They all work, but they're all different, right? So that's what's interesting. There was a question asked yesterday, how do we work with all you guys and not step on each other's toes? You can see how. Every single company is very, very different, and you can be successful, and that's really what makes you guys special in the marketplace. You've all got a story to tell. It's individual. It's your own. It's a service that what you have to offer is that individualism versus a box store. So anyway. Okay. Last question. For a brick and mortar dealer who is interested in shop at home, what is some advice to think about before getting started? And Steve, I'll let you start.
Don't do it. Next.
I'm going to leave it to Jason.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough to combine, in my opinion, and Jason sounds like he's been successful at it, but it's tough to combine brick and mortar with shop at home because of the sales structure, the product sampling process. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, and I don't want to say it's a different business model because we're all selling flooring, but there are pretty substantial differences. So if you're going to do it, I think you either make the decision you're really going to do it and just you got to get, not that you have to close your store and be all in, but you got to take it pretty seriously. And for most of us, day to day, if we don't, again, I go back to if we don't have the right team and the right organization in place, and we're not empowering people to make decisions, do things, you'll be too overwhelmed and too busy to be great at anything. And there's nothing worse than being okay at a lot of different things and not great at anything. And you're better off staying focused on whatever that is. And I'm not discouraging anyone, but if you're going to do something, you got to be great at it, or you're just like everybody else. And that's a strategic decision you have to make.
Jason?
So if you're going to do shop at home from your brick and mortar, the first thing that I would tell you is you're going to have to make an investment, and you're going to have to figure, like, if you think you're just going to buy a vehicle and wrap it, and then all of a sudden you're in shop at home, you're sadly mistaken. How are you going to get the leads? And you heard these guys talk about in the previous question how it's getting more expensive and more difficult. So shop at home requires its own type of advertising and marketing to generate the type of leads of those people that want shop at home. So really think about, do you really want to get into it? You're going to spend a decent amount of money on the vehicle itself if you do it my way. If you're brick and mortar, I think you're pretty much going to do it my way with an employee and a company-owned vehicle. If you do it their way, you don't have as much upfront cost, but then you still have the cost of the marketing, right? So where do you want to put those marketing dollars? Now, if you have brick and mortar and you have shop at home, you can figure out a way of how you can advertise them, both together. And if you offer online, did we get rid of that question? Is that not? You said this is the last one. Is there not that about e-commerce?
No.
There's not?
Just
Okay. If you do shop at home, if you do sales from your store and you do e-commerce, then you have a way of talking to your consumer a little bit different than probably the vast majority of your competitors can't. And that's how we do it. But we spend a lot of money on marketing to generate those leads.
I would say the same thing. I remember right now we spend probably upwards between $200,000 and $300,000 a month on marketing. That sounds crazy. I mean, I couldn't fathom that just a few years ago. The first Google bill that I got was $1,000. I'm like, oh my God, that's like 2 car payments. So you got to be prepared to do the work. And like Jason was saying yesterday, hashtag do the work. I mean, you got to be able to commit. And when you commit, I mean, you really got to go all in. But the rewards are great, but you've got to be willing to go all in. And the risks is great. I mean, so with great things, there's with great rewards, there's usually great risk and a tremendous amount of time investment. I mean, there's a real commitment. It's not something you can kind of do lackadaisically. But if you dive in and you really go all at it, there's really great potential.
I want to add something to that. So when you jump in and you try, you decide to do it, in those first couple months, you spend a bunch of money on advertising, and then you don't get the leads that you thought you were going to get because the reality is no one knows who you are, and there's more established players in the market, like an Empire, like whichever market you're in, and you're going to get frustrated. You're going to say, shoot, I just spent $20,000 and I spent $50,000 to prep my vehicle, and I only generated X number of leads that made this much money, and then you may decide to back out. Now you just wasted $70,000. So I would really, if you're going to do it, really think about the investment and the amount of time that it's going to take, and versus if you use those same funds in your current structure, maybe there's some other options. I don't want to scare you. I think shop at home is a great business, but I do want to scare you because, I'll take less of you doing shop at home. I think you would too.
Yeah, it's you got to think in the realms of hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, to really do it the right way. You can't think of it in tens of thousands. It's not, if you're going to, again, it depends on the model, right? I mean, I think our models is a bit different than Jason's. So it depends on the model you're trying to get to. But it's you have to, if you're going to, again, you're just throwing money away if you don't go all in. I think that's what
definitely-
Jason's saying. So.
It's definitely doable, but like I said, it's a commitment. I mean, it's definitely doable. I mean, the model works. I mean, you can see it out there. You know, there's companies that greatly succeed at it. But you know, it's
And listen,
it's a solid
shopping
commitment.
home companies aren't necessarily successful at brick and mortar. I mean, when I was at Empire, I bought Luna Flooring, right? And they had 5 retail stores in Chicago, including Shop at Home, and which made us interested in retail. But you never, Empire. We tested a couple of retail stores, but it kind of stopped there. It was just we couldn't be great at retail. People that are great at retail aren't necessarily great at Shop at Home, and I kind of believe in do what you're great at.
See, I think for us, because I mean, you guys already had the reputation for 50 plus years with us, and we came out of nowhere. I couldn't scale my business past the $5 to $7 million a year range until I had the brick and mortar. When I got the brick and mortar, that gave me credibility. Because otherwise I was just some guy trunk slamming working out of the back of my vehicle. When they saw this big building, we were just renting at the time. They see that, they oh, okay, they're real, they're credible. Because now everyone and their mother's on, I got the Shop at Home business, and they have a picture of, some distributors, racks, and they're working out of their basement. So how does Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones differentiate who's real and who's not? Who's going to be there beyond the 30-minute, 30-feet taillight warranty?
That's a great point.
I want to throw something else out, John.
All right.
Okay. The other thing you have to think about, this is especially true for the independent who's going to add Shop at Home to your brick and mortar. When you sell a job now, who is the person that goes out and measures and does the site assess, right? So when you're doing Shop at Home, that is the person who's doing the measure and the site assess. So they have to be properly trained as well, or else you're going to sell a job at a nice margin, and then you're going to go out and replace that job and lose all that margin because the salesperson didn't know how to do the job correctly, which is why a lot of people, when they start in Shop at Home, just stick with carpet. Because it's easier to site assess carpet versus hard surface, where you can really mess up a job really bad if you don't know what you're doing. And a lot of you talk about how much better you are than your competition because you do all these things well. The reality is, it's not that hard to be better than Empire. It isn't. So you can get into it and you can build a much higher reputation, but you have to have the right people with the right training to do it. You still got to spend a ton of money on advertising, though.
That's awesome. So listen, I would love for you guys just to open up questions to these guys. It doesn't have to be about Shop at Home, even though we're talking about that. But I'd like to open this up to questions to the panel here.
Yes, sir.
Jason, have you thought about offering AFSU outside
Yeah. I heard the question was, would I consider offering AFSU to outside companies? The thought has crossed my mind, but look, I view AFSU as a huge competitive advantage against all of you. I have the ability to do it, and you don't. I mean, it's really that simple. So I would not. And the only reason is it's not worth the recurring revenue that maybe I charge you to get it, number one. But number two is all the content that's in AFSU is not mine. So to resell it, I can't do it. Like, I can't charge you, I would get sued. I would have to recreate all new content. So all we've done is we've taken a bunch of other content, right? So Shaw has great content, right? Ardex has great content, right? When the pandemic hit, think of all the online training that was offered. Well, if you take all those things and you scour the internet, we do this, and then we watch tons of videos, and then we take it and we made our own. But the answer is, and I don't normally tell people no, but in this case, we would not do it. Sorry. I'd buy you, maybe.
And you get to use it for free.
That's all right.
There's a lot of synergy in your retail operation and your Shop at Home stores, that a lot of it is overlapping. What you have is several channels where you sell: the internet, home, and retail. It seems to me that in these times you have the perfect model. It's like your timing is perfect. And my husband has a retail store, he also already has a lot of channels in place that bring him business into the retail store. So it seems to me that synergy is there if he just goes into home, into shop at home, because so much of it's already in place. It's sort of like an extension of what he already does.
Thank you. Look, I agree with your assessment. We also do wholesale, we also do property management, we also do builder, and we also do commercial. So we're the true hybrid that does it all. We do my retail division is probably bigger than almost everyone's store in here with the exception of these two, just my retail. So we do it well, but each unit, each one of those segments really operates separately. The builder doesn't operate the way retail does. It's kind of like what Steve said. Shop at home operates different than brick and mortar. Now, we found a way to kind of make the two work together. But I can tell you with what's happening in the industry right now, with the supply chain issues, with pricing constantly going up, if you're strictly in builder, which I doubt any of you are in, you're getting your ass kicked right now, right? You're getting killed. I was just at the FEI convention and talking to some dealers who only do builder. Some of those guys, their margins are down 5-6 points for the year. That's huge. Like, that could be their entire profit. A guy like me, yeah, my builder stuff is down, but everything else is not. So even though we're making less profit on builder, we've made it up, so we're actually going to end up making more money this year. But it's really smart to be diversified. It's also really smart to focus on just one thing and be the best at it too. So it's what do you want? I can tell you it's extremely difficult to run all those different divisions. It'd be a lot easier to just run shop at home and focus on that. But it's the way we wanted to do our company.
The reason why I brought that up is I'm a clothing designer and I sell a lot of large retail chains. And one of the retail chains that I do sell is Express. And they have a new CFO, and that CFO is looking at every type of omni-channel that he can use to sell in and trying to change his business model. And the business model is basically what you have.
Thank you.
I think, and what Todd said yesterday in his opening statement about his grandmother, his 80-year-old grandmother, saying, when you look back at your life when you're 80 years old, will you have these regrets? So I guess my biggest piece of advice for anybody would be do what you're passionate about. We can't buy time back, no matter how much money you ever make. At the very end, we can never put a pause button on time. We can never buy any minute back. So if you find something you're absolutely passionate, if you're passionate with the brick and mortar, go at it 100%. If you're passionate with shopping, go at it 100%. Dive in. I know that for me, I want to work my butt off for a little more, a little bit longer, but then I want to spend the rest of my life enjoying the time. I don't want to work till I'm 80. So I think that that was the one thing that she said was one of her regrets is, and also the gentleman on the keynote this morning was the only possible regret would be how that time was spent. So.
I think if you're going to start something, know what you want in the end.
Yeah.
What is the goal?
Start with the
why
end in mind.
are you doing it? What are you hoping to achieve at the end of it? Or else you're just kind of fluttering around.
All right, it says I have 10 seconds here, so if we can answer this in 10 seconds. Question?
How do you justify having subcontractors and training? Because one of the tenets of an employee is training.
Salespeople?
So I want me to take that. The accountant in me will answer that question. So there's a specific regulation within the IRS code 3508 that allows you to treat these people as direct sellers. Direct seller is a hybrid, independent contractor and an employee. It allows you to have some control, but also puts them in this bucket that you can 1099 them and pay them 100% commission. So
Like a realtor.
yeah, it's the same thing as a realtor. So there actually is legal protection when you talk about salespeople, in-home salespeople, that allows you to do what you want, and it's the IRS that tells us that, which is what we're all scared of. So,
I do shop at home. We train our sales staff and provide.
your best friend is 3508 in the IRS code. And it should be part of your agreements with there's specific language. I assume you have contracts with them, and if you've got any questions about this, I'm happy to talk to you about it. But there is a specific structure you have to set up that creates protection for you that you don't have to worry about that.
So that's all the time we have. These guys are going to be here, so if anybody else has questions, they're going to be readily available. Thank you so much for your time.